Howdy, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of the Remington 725 VTR video. First off, I removed the stock, and this was the only screw that had the blue Loctite on it. The one that goes into the back of the trigger guard here had a little bit, the one on this side, none at all. But anyway, right on this elbow joint there, in the end of the breech block down here, there's a pin about 1/8 of an inch diameter that's in there so hard I couldn't hammer it out. So now I gotta go find a gunsmith that's got a hydraulic press to force that out of there and cut maybe a quarter of a thousand off that thing, so I can get it loosened up enough where I can get the thing to go in and out easy with a roll pin punch and a tap hammer. But I was able to get the old breech seal out, and I had to use these picks here. This one in particular worked the best in this situation, to pry the breech seal out with the hook facing inward, kind of like that, like a crowbar sort of thing, and then kind of pull the washer around like a break the surface tension of the lubricant on it. And there's one thin shim in there. They're really thin. Matter of fact, I can show you. I don't know how big you'll be able to see this, but I'll give it a shot. There's the shim right there, the breech seal shim, and that goes in that little hole in the breech first, and then you put the breech seal in. Well, there was only one shim in there. I put a second shim in, and this is the third one. I bought 2 extra just in case. You never know how many you're going to need, right? So the second shim seems to have worked, and I also used some of my 30 weight silicone oil, nice brown L's, 1/2 ounce needle oil. These are great. I love these. You buy them in packs of 3. We got them in 1 ounce bottles too. I thought 1/2 ounce would be enough for what I use them for. That's the last me forever, so I have to fill them again, you know. Anywho, so I don't think it kicks any harder. It just has real fast back and forth recoil, as we know from brake barrels. But this one it doesn't have as much power as the Benjamin, but the Benjamin is a slower back and forth. Like, it has more swept volume in here, in front of the piston, that is to say. So I put the old seal back in, just to checking clearances to see how far it's going to stick out, and if it's sticking out far enough, and try to use another shim and all that. And I've got two of these. These are the same shims for the Remington here as used in the NPXL 725 trail. It's round on the top and flat on the bottom. Rather thin. This thing's only about half the thickness of the Winchester seal. That thing is about a good 3/16 of an inch. But anyway, I put the old seal back in, just to, as I said, to check clearances and everything. And it seemed to work pretty good. I'll switch to a new seal eventually here. Well, let's see what you think. I don't like leaning over like that because that thing springs back, but the more power they make, the harder it is to cock it. And I don't care if it's spring or gas ram. More power, more effort, and that's it. Oh, and these are the newer H&M Field Target Trophy 20.06 grain. pretty shiny too. Later, like I said, I used this silicone oil all over that seal, not a lot, just a good even coating. And I still had to use a handy little bricklayer's hammer to tap the seal in to that little hole. You can't press that thing in with your finger without prying and fooling around with picking it in. Just use the little hammer to tap it in and very gently tap it down to place. And seems to be fine. I got pictures of the process here I'm going to show you in a minute here. Anyway, a little tricky lining this thing up with this part right here because it's got that little U-shaped sort of cleat in there the thing that the rear trigger guard screw goes in to act as the third stock mount. You got to put that one in first to line up the ones up there. Oh, one right above the other. Put two holes equally spaced like a colon under the T in Pizza Hut. But a little more crack to it, I think. It doesn't kick any harder, but it's kind of hard to explain to you. This Remington doesn't kick as hard as the Benjamin Trail NPXL 725 I got back here. But that one's like has more movement and it's a little slower, if that makes any sense. This one here, same back and forth recoil. It's just a real quick snap, like a boxer's jab. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense to you fellas? That's the difference between this one and that one. This one, there's a lot sharper snap on this one, on the recoil. It's quicker and sharper snap. That's the only way I can explain it to you. So I don't think this one's got as much sweat volume as the 725 XL. As far as I know, if I'm wrong, speak up in the comments down below. And I just think it's got less sweat volume, so there's less chance of getting like 900 feet per second and 30 foot-pounds of energy like with the Benjamin. Even though it's basically the same rifle and a lot of the same parts fit, as you're going to see here. And here we have the parts as they came in, the front sling mounts and the breech seals. Here's a close-up of the breech seals and the breech seal shims with the related part numbers. And here I removed the typical 3 bolts to get the barreled action out of the stock. And here I used the pick scene here to take the old seal and shim out. And here I put the same seal back in with a second shim to try it out, because it would stick it out a lot farther now. It was almost level before. And here's that U-shaped clip I mentioned that the rear trigger guard screw goes through with that blocky thing on the back of the trigger. The thing there with the 4-sided head on it on the back of the trigger, it holds that in, but it also takes the stock mounting screw in the back. That's the third one. Here's a shot of the trigger here. You can see the retainer spring for the anti-bear trap lever is under the lever now instead of on top of it. And there's that square thing behind the trigger that holds the end of one of those funny shaped springs. And as you can see here, there's no light between the little port and the breech block where the seal is. So that's a good thing. Okay, attempted pin removal, take 2. Well, since we couldn't use a roll pin punch and and that bricklayer's hammer. I got this also from HarborFreightTools.com, 13-14 bucks. It's a heavy-duty chain breaker. It's a pin press for pressing the pins out of bike and motorcycle chains, chainsaws, stuff like that. So, a 1/8 inch pin, in theory, we should, oh boy, is that thing is just gone like, oh, that's a long son of a bitch. Look at that. And it's got the handle that a nice knurled handle goes in there. You hold like that and crank it with a socket wrench, which I forgot to grab. You need 11/16. If you can do this with these longer tappet wrenches, ones we used to adjust the lifters with, it'd be better than the shorter ones. The longer one give you more leverage. And this is the NPXL 725 Benjamin Trail front swivel loop, whatever. That hole there is the same size as this pin here. The dimple, the little where you like your little dimple you make to keep the drill bit in place, is on the other side, meaning it was pressed in like this. So we got to press it out from this side of the breech block where the model number and all that is. And hopefully I won't need 5 people holding on to this dumb thing to do it. So may fortune favor the foolish. Well, a short 9/16 doesn't give you enough torque. I was afraid of that. So I got out my speeder sockets and 14mm 3/8 drive on a 3/8 breaker bar should work a little easier. I can't turn it. Okay, let's try it this way. Took the handle off, clamped it in the vise, prop that side up. Let's see if that does anything. Let the weight of the rifle and the device keep things centered. Maybe that'll work. Somebody did mention you'd have to clamp it in the vise. I don't know, maybe. Just doesn't want to hardly move very hard. I think I finally cracked it. It's kind of like it's something between a crack and a you know, not like cracking a hard ball, like it's got more of a poppy quick to it. Because it's looking like I'm finally getting it. So this is the setup you all are going to have to use to get these pins out. I hope you don't mind your hands getting sore, because they're going to be. And 14mm deep well speeder socket on a 3/8 inch drive breaker bar. Even the socket wrench would be too short to get enough leverage. This thing is in there. I might polish down that pin a little bit and hit it with some assembly lube to see if I can You know what? Is this thing, should have lined up. It's going out. But boy, is that going to be fun to try to get that swivel lined up in between all the parts to get the pin to, you know, go through them all. So if you got somebody else to help you, like wiggling this thing around as the pin goes through everything and through this too, to line it, wiggle it around to line it up, then I would get this second set of hands. Well, there's a, well, that's a little weird. Let me get this apart first and then I'll show you. There. Here is the pin. There's a little flare. Oh, you can see it over top of my fingernail right there. This is the dimpled side where they pressed it in, because there's a little dimple in the metal right there. You can tell. I pounded on it a little bit, but it makes it harder to see. It's smooth on this side. There's a little bit of a burr there, and I want to file that burr off there with a machine file, polish it up. I actually did have some lubricant on it, but boy, you'd never know. And it's turning black, so it's got to be moly paste. And this has a little ridge right there, so that's the part you push in from side. Then you push in from. And this is the end that goes in. I just need to cut that little burr off the edge. Got no chamfer on it. That's what's the matter. Okay, I'll fix that. Okay. Now comes the fun part. Get that the pin on the press tool is like 2 inches long or so. I'd have to look again, but at the package thingy, but it does say, and they give you a spare pin too. That's got a little thing on the end, it's kind of like this, and the pin sticks out here like 1.5, 2 inches, something like that. And they give you 2 of them. So anyway, there's some lube on there, moly lube on there, right? That just funny how it turns from a gray, like a porch gray, to black. Okay, moving right along. There's what it looks like when you get it apart. It's still connected in the middle there where I got it pivoted, where it goes into the piston. So let that sit a minute. And I still got my old Sears files from the 70s. Darn thing to 6-inch mill file. Oh, that's hard steel on that pin right there. This is the end that has a little flare on it. You got to leave that where it is because that's like a stop. Just shows you which way it goes in. And I just want to get them burrs off the edge that pushes through so it's not so doggone brutal. And I can use a Q-tip and some perma glue to fix that up, so I'm not even worried about that. Blued so many metal parts rebuilding and restoring these rifles. It's just gotten to the point where I don't have to think about it anymore, you know. Okay, that's pretty good little chamfer on there. And then green Scotch-Brite. I even used to polish armature shaft commutators, the copper part. Anywho, just trying to turn it around there to clean up a little bit. Just any which way I can to it's got bluing on there. I don't think you really need bluing on there. Just trying clean it up a little bit. Even a 10,000th of an inch might make it easier to get in and out, you know. You don't really need to blue this pin because it's all covered anyway. You know, you can't really see it once everything's in position. Well, in a way that's good, I guess, but... Okay. Cleaned up a bit in the chamfer. And here we have where I started notching it out with a Dremel and a aluminum oxide stone and then that 3-corner file there. And I'm checking the swivel yoke there to how far I got to grind it in to make it level basically. And it's basically grind, check, and grind some more. Now it gets hot, so I use that leather gauntlet there, and there's the aluminum oxide stone I was using on the Dremel to get the initial dimension and smooth it out with that 3-corner chainsaw file there. Also had to cut it back a little farther, maybe about 3/4 of an inch or so, to clear the breech block right there where the pin goes through. Just turn it around, checking it to make sure. It looks like I got just enough cut back on that thing. And right there, it's getting pretty close to dimension and got it smoothed out. I started using a mill file at that point. And here's the mill file on top there. It got it nice and smooth that way with that mill file. That worked out pretty good. And there we have where I finally got it to dimension, just to check it to make sure it's fitting just right. And you can line it up with the pinhole properly and all that sort of thing. And once again, the 2 files used. And the wire wheel I used to kind of clean it up a little bit, to clean off the old bluing and polish it up a mite. Stainless steel wire wheel. And here I used a drum sander to kind of grind it down a bit and get a little bit cleaner and smoother. Didn't work as well as I thought it would. Tried to skip using all that emery paper. So I had to basically use the stainless wire wheel to polish it again. Spent a little more time with that one where it started slinging in wires in my face at about 35,000. And here using the cleaner degreaser to clean it down to bare metal with no gunk and funk on there. And basically that's what it looks like after it's been polished and cleaned. Looking pretty decent. And put it in it's a 3-ounce hefty bathroom cup there full of perma blue, but just enough to take it just above where the bare metal was and let it sit for 15 minutes or so, just so it would get blued really good. And there it is after I sprayed it with Rem oil. Well, you're a little rust if you don't spray it with Rem oil after you rinse it with water. A little closer in shot there. It's looking pretty good. And here I took the butt pad off the stock. Surprising how I used that small of a screwdriver to get those screws out. I was surprised by that. This is good here. It's actually gusseted on the inside. It's got 3 horizontal gussets run along the length of the thing. And on the bottom part on the right, the gusset tapers off. So it's straight, and the buttstock kind of tapers up on the bottom. So, and as is common practice, you measure 2.5 inches back from the end of the buttstock to drill a hole. Now here I've got a 9/64 drill bit to drill the hole, and it turns out that a little bit smaller than pitch diameter, so I had to go up to 5/32, and that worked real well. And that swivel stud has got black and white washers, which will stand out a little more when we get the camo dip done on it. But it's perfect. And you can see that the stud goes through the gusset, so that's going to be nice and strong. Try to get a closer in shot there. And with the butt pad back in place, looking complete. And here we have the blue cured on the cocking lever, and all the tools I'm going to need in this parts, little spare parts and junk like that I pulled off when I took the stock off. And a close-up of my vernier calipers, which is metric on the bottom. It's easier than measuring on 1/128 of an inch. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like here all said and done, the end I cut down is down to 3 millimeters even, and the lever itself is 5.3 millimeter, and this is Bali paste, an assembly lubricant I used on the pivot points of all the parts there where the pin goes through and all that sort of thing. It's a 14 millimeter 3/8 drive speeder socket on a 3/8 drive breaker bar, and I lubed the pinholes there too. And I had to tap it in. I had to tap that thing in to keep all the cocking arm and the swivel aligned and everything, and then press it into level as you see here. I'll fix that bluing later, but I just wanted to show how it looks all put together and looking good. And this is the side I chamfered a little bit. You don't have to worry about that because it actually holds from the side you push in from real tight, more so than that side. And the overall shot of the calipers on the finished product. I had to spread the stock forks a little bit to get the wider part of the swivel yoke through so the front of the barrel of action would seat. So that's all well and good. Not too tight, not too loose. It's just right at 3 millimeter spread. Then here's the 3 stocked barrel of action mounting screws in their relative positions. And here installed with blue Loctite. Yeah, big hole in the back of the trigger guard here is where the longer rear mount screw goes. Now here we turn our attention to the sling, which has screw rivets in it. You can see on the left there. And here's where I had to use robo grip pliers and an 1/8 inch screwdriver to take the rivets apart. So I get the 2 rivets out, straighten the strap out, and I can pull the extra sling swivel off that I didn't need. When I left on, went on easily in the back here, so we got that done first. Get that out of the way. And with some effort, here's what it looks like after I got it in the front with 1 screw rivet out of the 2. And all said and done. Well, that had some difficult moments, didn't it? And they had one end of the sling double over on itself to make an adjustment, but also makes it too dang short, especially for somebody of average height and broad shoulders and stuff like me. But there it is. Now the swivel stud down here has got a black and white washer on it. And I get the stock dipped by Mid-Ohio Hydro over in Mansfield in a couple more weeks. It'll be dipped in Realtree Edge Camo, the latest one. And this dimpling here and right here, and this logo, the oval logo here in the center of the grip there, will be masked off so it stays black, along with the trigger guard. And this is what I had to machine the end of the cocking lever for. It fits snug. It's not too loose, but it's not too snug either. It fits just right. So we'll go. These have screw rivets. There was one here and one here. It was doubled over and screwed on the other side of this thing, so you turn the logo inside out, trying to pull it out to get it to fit. I had to take it out and make it more like a normal one like that to get everything to fit right. I'll figure out how to fix that later. But for now, it's wider than this loop here. I had a devil of a time with a small standard screwdriver to get that down in the slot part here. But it does, and it works just fine. It holds real good. So, that's it for trying to get the sling mounted. I dealt with the time with a couple of parts, but as you can see, it came out looking factory as I had intended. From the pictures, the advertisement pictures they showed, that were now undoubtedly the final prototype pictures that they used, because it had the front swivel yoke on there already. So they eliminated the machining stuff by taking that out on the end of the cocking lever, which is, as I measured with my calipers, was 5.3 millimeter total thickness. And after I ground and filed it down about 3/4 of an inch on the end here where it goes on the breech block, filed it down, notched it out basically evenly on both sides down to 3 millimeters even. So now let's see if we can cock this thing and shoot it without undue stress. Let's now we got it back together. Let's see if we got everything right and it shoots. I had to also bend these stock forks out a little bit to get the swivel yoke in, to get the action to set all the way down in there and clear the flat part of the swivel. Oh, and once again, the new field target trophies at 20.06 grains. Okay, may fortune favor the foolish. Oops. I always forget to take them darn caps off there. Oops. Sorry, folks. And a little over to the right. But we are a couple of yards away, so that's understandable. Seems to work just fine. As usual, good H&N Sport quality. These pellets are kind of shiny. Look at that. You can see that. Very clean. Put one in Pizza Hut's hat. Sounds a little louder too. I did put three shims behind a new breech seal. That seems to have done it. There's a bit of a challenge here and there with only one pair of hands, and that sling being double over like that to make it adjustable, which was a pretty dang cheap way of doing it to eliminate one of the buckles. I'll work on that later. Taking it apart like I showed you just makes it fit me. I'm a little bit more broad-shouldered than the average guy, so it fits me fine. If I could back the camera up enough, I could probably stand up and show you. But anywho, that's how you put a sling on one of these. It should have been there to begin with. I got that thing fitting not too snug and not too loose. I got it fit just right. So next time you see this thing, hopefully it'll have been hydro dipped by Mid-Ohio Hydro and over in Mansfield, east of here that way. Sorry it's a little dark, but it's been raining the last couple of days and it's, you know, gray skies and all that, sometimes downright black and blue. But we will soldier on, so good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll see you again.